now I'm a real estate agent.
Okay.
You know, it's been very interesting. My trajectory over the year was, you know, I sort of went from being in the woods, and then I left and I started in the sales and marketing business, and I had different sort of jobs in different industries, and
Yeah, because the first thing you did was network marketing. Right?
network marketing.
How did that go?
Well, that was sort of a very interesting
You
business.
were like 18 or whatever. Like.
I was 18 years old. Yeah. So, and I had a job. I got a sales job.
That was a year. Okay, so how?
Okay, so yeah.
The transition.
Yeah.
To business.
So the transition to business. So this crazy thing happened where, you know, I was sort of like, I went to regular school. I went to high school.
Yeah.
I graduated at the age of 15 from high school. So
that's super early.
Super early. I started school like, I think because my birthday is in August. I started school sort of like, I could have started school the following year, but I started school at the fastest I could start. So I'm happy my parents put me in preschool right away, and I was sort of the youngest in my class. I think there was one more younger than I was, and graduated at 15. All I had known was sort of like, you know, the area where I lived, and sort of the woods. So I wanted to explore the world. It's like I wanted to get out there, and I wanted to see things. My older brother, he started traveling. He went to college for a year, and then he started traveling. So by the time I was done high school, he was out west, close to Vancouver, and sort of he inspired me to go and explore. So I hitchhiked. I left my parents with a backpack and hitchhiked across the country. I met up with my brother in British Columbia in the Okanagan Valley.
So nice over there.
Very, very nice. It's such a beautiful part of the country. It's like, you know, everyone, you know, British Columbia, the province of British Columbia is like the most scenic thing that you'll see.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Kelowna is it's one of the best places on earth.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. And the crazy thing about British Columbia is that you have the Okanagan Valley, which is essentially it's like the tail end of the desert going up, you know, up the west coast.
It's the similar to Napa Valley in California. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And it's this big valley, and there's a lot of fruits growing there.
And then an hour east, it's the Rockies. And then when you have Banff, it's the mountain. Lake Louise is for me, this is the prettiest scenery I've seen in my life by far. By far,
it's beautiful.
There's so few places that lives up to the hype, and that are super hyped. Yeah. And Lake Louise is probably one of the top that lives up to the hype. It's absolutely amazing.
It's beautiful. Yeah. So I was there. I was actually there. I lived in Banff, not too far from Lake Louise for a little while. But I traveled around. Like I left my parents. I hitchhiked. I got a job as I started washing dishes actually in a restaurant. I was still 15 years old, and I pitched my tent in the woods because a lot of people were working in the region and picking fruits, so picking cherries and whatnot, and it's sort of a culture. People go there and they pitch tents and they camp.
It's actually for a kid, you make a lot of money doing that. You can make $30 an hour, $40 an hour, or something like that.
A lot of people traveling from all over.
If you work hard, you can make a lot of money.
You can make a lot of money. It was all this. It's this culture. It's like kids traveling from all over and meeting there and camping and picking cherries.
Yeah.
It's
a thing. Yeah,
it's still a thing today.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of kids that finish high school. They go there for a year or so.
Or for the summers.
Yeah, or for the summers.
It's a summer thing. I met tons of people there. Tons of young people from Quebec or from all over the country and from the States. It's this crazy thing. So camping was part of the culture too. But I didn't camp with other people. I sort of found my own sort of little piece of forest. It wasn't legal. I stayed in this. There's a little patch of wood off of I think it was a peach farm.
Okay.
And I camped there for like 2 months, and I was walking into town and sort of doing my job as a washing dishes, and then walking back. And eventually, one morning I woke up and there's the farmer there, and he's like, "You got to pack up." So I had kept things very clean. I had disrupted. He didn't hear me for like 3 months. So he's just bumped into me and
by accident because he was walking the farm or whatever.
Exactly. Huh. And then I just packed up, and he actually gave me a ride. And it was very nice, very very nice man. and then I actually bought a van, sort of a camper van type, with a bed in the back. And
you can get by with a minivan for a while.
Yeah, so what happened is I was in the Okanagan Valley, and I sort of bought this van. I stayed in the Okanagan Valley with the van. I was still washing dishes, and I was actually parked at the restaurant. I asked the owner if I could park there, and they're like, yeah, no problem. So I was living there, I was working there, and there was the very nice lakes. I would walk to the beach and hang out. It was a very, very cool experience, at that age. And then in the fall, I drove the van over to Alberta, and I went to Banff, which is essentially sort of, you have all of the ski resorts. And I had done a lot of skiing when I was a kid, so I got myself a snowboard. I started snowboarding there, and I stayed there into the winter. And then I did a bit of back and forth like that for a year and a half. And then when I came back, Dan had met me in British Columbia, and he traveled with me for the last 6 months of that period of a year and a half. And when we came back, we met with his uncle, and it was kind of a wake-up call. We were at the time I was 17. It was just before my 18th birthday, and he was like, guys, like, he owned an ATM machine. He had I don't know how many ATM machines all over the region of Ottawa, and we just visited him, and he sort of inspired me.
Yeah, because surprisingly enough, you can make a lot of money with a bunch of ATMs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
$2-3 a transaction.
It goes fast.
It goes fast.
Yeah. He had a lot.
Yeah.
He had in the hundreds of ATM machines. So he sort of inspired me to get started in the sales and sort of business thing. And then it's just something that's said over the years, and I've always been sort of like sales and marketing, in different industries, home renovations for a very long time. And my wife's been a realtor for 8 years. We've been together for 8.5 years. So she started real estate not too long after.
I was there when you met her.
Yeah, it was a while back. And then she started real estate not too long after we were together. And then I started real estate 6 years later.
Yeah, we didn't like her at first because he was always with her. He didn't talk to us for like a year.
Yeah, I was in love. What can I say? I really found, I'm really happy. I found, a very good
she's
life
amazing.
partner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've developed a lot over the years, and we've worked a lot on our relationship, and now we work together. So we just do everything together, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of this a very nice relationship that works really well. It definitely takes a long time to sort of like tweak and figure out who does what, but we have a very good system in place, and sort of, we're having a lot of fun, which is essentially what matters the most, right?
Yeah.
So when you have fun and you just do, you're not stressed, and things are going well, you can have a nice, enjoyable life. And when you have a life partner to do it with, well, then it's just so much better, right?
I agree.
Yeah, so that's sort of been the process, in general, to get me into real estate. My wife is the one that inspired me to join.
Because you flipped a couple of homes too, right? In the last few years, and so you had the construction company. You were my coach when we did the painting business, and then you moved to the construction company. Then you moved to Dan's company.
Exactly.
In selling a lot of work for him, and then you finished. You went to Mexico during COVID. And you came back because you were doing real estate in Mexico as well, but you came back to Ottawa. Yeah,
so the transition was sort of like I got into sales. My first sales job, actually, I was selling produce. So I got this first sales job right after I started MLM. MLM didn't really make money at first, the multi-level marketing.
But you built a big team, no?
But it took a while, right? So at first I got this sales job. And the company, what they offered is they offered very high quality meat that would get delivered to your home about twice a year. So if you didn't have the freezer, I would have to sell you the freezer. And then they also delivered all the produce that was sort of canned, right, and or dried that you could keep for a very long time. So they would do like 2 or 3 deliveries a year.
And it was 3,000 for a year. Like it was kind of still.
Yeah, depending on the size of the family, it could be it could be pretty significant. So that was actually my first sales job. That was very, very good sales training, because every day we had a meeting in the morning. They would sort of pump us up, and they would talk about sort of like, because the whole sale would take about 3 hours.
Holy shit, that's so long.
What you were doing, they had sort of a call center.
And you were doing that over the phone?
No. So essentially, they had a call center. The company had a call center, and they would call people. And I don't know what their script was, but they would tell people like, you're gonna save money on your ketchup, like your $5 ketchup bottle is gonna be like $3, and they would give sort of a bunch of examples of a bunch of products that people could save on. And if you want, we'll send one of our guys over, and they can just give you an example of how much it would cost for you. Very quick, simple thing. But really, when you went there, you were basically doing your presentation, explaining why it was costing less, right, and the process. And then you were saying, okay, let's put an order together, right, just to give you an idea. Let's calculate what you would eat, right? And then you would sort of go through this whole order sheet and sort of like, and when they started that process, that took like an hour to an hour and a half to put that together. But it was like a funnel. It was like a funnel, right?
They're so involved in the process that...
And then at the end, you had the number, and then they could put a deposit on it right now and secure it. And, if they didn't have the freezer, you had to sell them a freezer. So that's how I learned how to sell. And then I did that, and I did multi-level marketing. And then eventually we started, still very young. It was just a year and a half later, I started in the student painting business. And, I started as a franchisee.
Before we go in there, I need to pee again first. And we're back. Yeah, we're talking about the painting, how you got involved in the scholars, the student painting business.
Yeah, the student painting business was like a business school, right? Because they would just basically teach you all the basics of like, branding, lead generation. They would give you a little territory within the city. So I had a little territory in the city of Ottawa, and that's where I was allowed to market. And same for you when we did this.
Yeah.
And then you would hire people to knock on doors, get some potential homeowners that would want some painting done, and then sell them the painting job.
And you would go sit down with them, and then evaluate the job, and then try to. And
then when summer came around, you would hire some painters, some university painters, some students that needed sort of student jobs, and get them to do the work. It was a very good business school. Very, very good.
It was cool for students too. We were paying $15, $17, $20 an hour.
Yeah.
For kids, there was good jobs. Like if one of my painter made, he was very good, but we fucked up the how to pay him. So we paid him like way too much in advance or whatever, because we were paying them as at the job, right? So they had this amount of hour budgeted in the work. But then, so let's say we like to paint a room like this. We would like. Okay, we can
calculate.
It's like piecework,
essentially, right?
Exactly. So we were so it takes 2 hours to paint everything here. If he does it in one, well, then he's still paid for 2 hours, right? So it doesn't matter how much time it took. It just mattered that the job was done.
Yeah. It was very interesting learning all these things. And we were young at the time, right? Around 20 years old, and it was sort of a foundation for everything I did afterwards. The student painting. I transitioned to home renovations because it just still in the renovation industry, so it's I was an easy.
We have a lot of friends that transferred to home renovation.
Yeah,
I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah. Like Dan that we were talking about earlier, and
it makes sense that I sell homes too.
So selling homes was like sort of this thing. I did home renovation, worked on my own, and then I worked with Dan in Northco as the marketing and sales director for a couple of years, and then moving into real estate with my wife, that was a realtor, was just this transition that made sense.
Because you flipped a few homes in the meantime.
That's how we started, right? So Dale and I flipped a couple of properties, and while I was still working in the renovation business, and then after that, it just made sense for me to sort of focus on selling houses. You sell a renovation project or you sell a house. You'll make more money selling houses. So. It was sort of a natural progression, but still in the same industry, which is very, very interesting. And that's sort of a general idea. But going back to my childhood, I think I was brought up in a way, and then I think that's what pushed me towards becoming an entrepreneur. And probably the same for you as well. When you're in the wild, you can really be free. You can pretty much do anything, right? You just have fun. Yeah. And when you move into like society and the way we do things in the current world, it's very structured And being an employee is very difficult on someone like us, probably, who were just used to being so free, right? If you live off,
if I don't know why I do this, I won't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to please explain why. Then if it makes sense, sure, we'll do it. Yeah. But if I can't see why, then no.
Exactly. Yeah. And also freedom, right? The freedom of building your own business, doing things your own way, not having too much structure. Like the freedom that you live in the wild, you know, when you live off the land. My parents are totally free. Yeah. Right? You have nothing. You can just do whatever you want, right? There's no limits. Like, yeah, you're very limited in a sense, right? Because you're just out there. But you have no obligations, right? So you don't have to do this or have to do that. You're not running crazy to sort of like, you know, make your place in the world. You're just living, right? It's a very peaceful type of lifestyle. And I think that building your own business can bring you sort of that same amount of sort of peace and freedom if you do it properly, and if you sort of like if you establish yourself in a way that allows you to be yourself, then you're totally free. You just do what you like and you have fun, and I think that's the nature of living. At the end of the day, we're only here for so long, right? So being free is so important, and I think being free in a sense that you do what you like to do, you surround yourself with people that you like, and you know, you don't have to do things that you don't want to do. I think that's a big driver for me, probably for you as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know, the world's your oysters and you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Not whatever you want. You're still very limited. You know, the freedom that you live, in nature, you know, I don't think it's possible in this society, that level of freedom.